You know what's amazing? I could not even imagine that someday I would shoot a review of this car and even be able to ride behind the wheel. Unusual feeling. Emotions are overflowing. There are several reasons for this. First, very few such models were produced. Second, they were all operated in departments that were unattainable for ordinary people. And yes, the most important thing, according to unconfirmed reports, for almost half a century of its operation, only 2 cars remained on the move. But maybe not. But it is known for sure that 5 such cars were produced. The initiative belonged to the Gorky Regional Committee of the party. It would be nice to produce an SUV on the basis of a comfortable and modern car at that time. Please note that the GAZ-24 was very modern. The car was developed from scratch by several design teams. About 20 running prototypes were built to test the technology and aggregators. Here is the brainchild of a team of engineers led by Tsikalenko and Kiriv. The Volga entered the series in 1967 and was produced until 1986. Only in 1974 did they decide to make the Volga all-wheel drive. At that time, this idea seemed to them successful. Meanwhile, similar actions with civilian vehicles at GAZ have already been done. During the Great Patriotic War with the M model, then the GAZ-M72, then the M22. In short, the experience was, and it was applied. Less than a year passed from the idea to the implementation of this car. There are no external changes at all. This is how its predecessor GAZ-24 remained, with strict lines, good glazing and moderate chrome plating. Although, I don't know if the front grille and bumper can be called moderately chromed. Just beautiful. But how to shove something that is impossible to shove? This is probably the most popular Russian question, to which we always find an answer. SUVs are equal, but the Volga is not. Let's forget this frame. The machines were then made of real strong metal, and the strength and the supporting structure was laid with a margin. Yes, and about the experience in creating such equipment, I have already spoken. So, the base of the UAZ is 93.7 inches, and the Volga is longer 110 inches. The transfer case on the UAZ is tightly attached. If you put it differently, then the universal joints will approach the bridges at 2 large angles. Will shake everyone. It would be possible to take elements from the UAZ-69, but it has already been discontinued. There were no choices. They removed the UAZ transfer case. Another shank was welded to the Volga checkpoint and connected with a handmade universal joint. Then everything was a little easier. Conditionally easier. The front axle is spring, and the Volga has a different one. What to do? Weld everything that is possible and necessary, and roll up another bridge. To secure the front edge of the spring, a transverse beam was welded in front. Here it is, hidden under the apron. The towing eye is also hidden here. Access to a crooked starter. The front number reclines, or rather reclined earlier. But that is not all. Move on. And then the rear part of the springs was fixed by drilling a hole in the spar. It was also decided to install bumpers to prevent the bridge and crankcase from meeting. The steering trapezoid had to be moved forward, and the shaft should be enlarged or built up. But the front axle is not from UAZ, as it might seem. This is the rear axle from the Volga. It was turned over, shortened and screwed on the sides. The steering knuckles from the UAZ were welded on. And yet, you don't see it, but trust me. A cam mechanism of increased friction is installed here. The gears have been removed. It is similarly installed on the GAZ-66, only this one is smaller. It was developed for the sports Volga. In addition, jet thrust was removed. And again, once at the front of the car, admiring the fanged bumper, we open the hood and look at what is eternal. Do you understand what I'm talking about? States have collapsed, machines have rotted, and ZMZ is eternal. Gasoline, carbureted, inline, 4-cylinder, 150 cubic inches. The maximum power is 95 horsepower, and sometimes 90 and 80, and even 75, at 4,500 RPM. Maximum torque 186 Newton meters at 2,200 to 2,400 RPM. The cylinder bore is 3.6 inches, the piston stroke is also 3.6 inches. Visually everything is the same. That is how it is. What is interesting here? The oil bath has been enlarged and displaced. In addition, the gas outlet pipe was moved. Ideally, there should be another emblem here, a deer on a green background, a huntsman. But about where it went, you need to ask the keepers of time. And the tires are now from UAZ. Even in the crankcase itself, the low receiver was rebuilt, moved. The rear axle also has nothing to do with the UAZ, it is from the Volga. To increase ground clearance, the springs were installed so that they passed over the bridges and not under them. By the way, a jet bar was installed at the back. Also, of course, they changed the place of attachment of the shock absorbers and welded a new exhaust system. Why am I climbing into the trunk? To imagine how inconvenient it is to lay bores here, because the car is for hunters. But it will fit a lot, 185 gallons of volume, and under the floor a tank of 13 gallons. But all the free space in the trunk is removed by a huge spare wheel, see for yourself. And there should also be installed a special communication. Oh my gosh. That's it. There is nothing special to say about the salon, everything is as it was on ordinary Volga, without an ounce of embellishment. The only thing to note is the height. Secondly, car 74, or rather the turn of 74, and there is already a modern speedometer at that time, not a tape one. Third, in the cabin are levers from the transfer case. They cut a hole in the floor, strengthened and shoved the transfer case. And there is also a mass button. That's probably all. Radio receiver. CD changer, by the way. A 275E. There is even a warranty card. You understood that there is no CD changer. This is a reserve for the future. People look to a bright socialist future. And there each person had to have a CD player. The fate of the GAZ-24 to 95 model is unenviable. They wanted to launch the car in a series, but the plant itself did not want to spend money on its production. Now, if someone had ordered, then they would have made it. In the meantime, here are presentation copies for you, break it. For you to understand, I'll tell you, this car hasn't been fully driven either since 1986 or since 1988. Of course, it was later restored a little, but in general, it did not go at all. And it doesn't really want to go. Open the hood for me, please. Something is falling out there. There, a bolt from here unscrewed and dived there onto the floor, which holds the suction. But the suction does not react at all, look. Already better. Volga, which does not want to go at all. The usual one does not go either, but it does it nicely, gently, slowly, freely. It's even a little pleasant. But here everything is completely different. This Volga is screaming at you, save, help, as if an alien is holding you by the ass and does not want to let go. And that horse turning radius. Imagine, almost 24 feet. Even LIAZ 677 has a radius of 31 inches on the outer wheel. But this car is not designed to drive on good roads. It was this 24, according to legend, that was transferred to the Zavidovo hunting estate. And the politician Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev rode it for a short time. Not as a driver, but as a passenger. He did not like the car, again according to legend. About tires and consumption. From Zavidovo, a letter was sent to the enterprise. They say, send us a normative act on the consumption of fuel and lubricants. Has anyone made this regulation? Everything was in a hurry. The factory thought, let it be 6.1 gallons. It just so happens that the standard gas mileage is 6.1 gallons per 100 miles. But actually, I think, more than 8.5. Now about the rubber, the real one. Wheels were immediately put on the car not from UAZ, but from Chaika. Moreover, winter tires from Chaika were installed on wheels from 21 model. As I said, the car was molded from what was available. Yeah, turning around in this closet is not an easy task. Okay. The designers were unable to defeat the Rumble, although they tried. How did they fight him? Everything that was possible, they overlaid with felt and wrapped it around. It became a little quieter. It turned out something like Soviet soundproofing. But they couldn't really do anything with the vibration. Today, GAZ-24 95 lives in the warm pavilion of the Special Purpose Garage Museum of the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, surrounded by its colleagues, government limousines. Hum, noise, vibrations, I complain too much. Volga with 8 inches of ground clearance, I like that. Just think about it. But who else has ridden one? Only Brezhnev and me. Drift. Russian drift. Hi Volga, which likes to drive into piles of snow. Weird feeling, to be honest. I drive as if in an UAZ, the demeanor is the same as in the UAZ, the same wooden, the same jumpy. No, it's softer of course, after all, the body is longer, but it's a pity that such cars were not produced. Probably now. I would definitely take one for myself for pleasure. Due to additional mechanisms, the weight of the machine increased by only 200 pounds and amounted to 3,280 pounds. The maximum speed is up to 70 miles per hour, but on tests the car was able to accelerate to 87 miles per hour. But it's not sure. By the way, the Gorky automobile plant was the first in the world to build an SUV of superior comfort. For some reason, the Americans didn't think of it before. In general, our designers always have good, bright thoughts, but the implementation fails. Well, you can see for yourself. But it's life. The hunt continues.